I want people to understand this ordeal. It's taken a toll on both of us.
Casey Anthony's parents respond after 15 years of allegations.
I've gotten blamed for something I didn't do, and it tears me up inside.
This can change our life. This is serious.
This is their final response.
The test is about to begin. Please remain still.
Casey Anthony's parents, the lie detector test. Watch now, only on A&E, and watch next day on the A&E app.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.
You can support this podcast at patreon.com/partnersincrimemedia.
Introducing Patio Shield Zone Mosquito Repellent from Thermacell. If you enjoy being outside but hate mosquitoes,
like me,
who enjoys being outside and also loves mosquitoes? Let's be real. You will love Patio Shield. Patio Shield creates a 15-foot mosquito protection zone. It's lightweight, portable, and comes in 3 bold colors. Discover for yourself why Thermacell repellers are so highly rated and backed by a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Thermacell Patio Shield. Turn it on, mosquitoes gone. Use code CRIME to save 20% on Patio Shield at thermacell.com.
Say goodbye to expensive TV bills.
Bye-bye.
Philo is the simple, powerful app for watching TV. Get access to more than 35 of your favorite entertainment channels like Investigation Discovery, HGTV, AMC, MTV, and more, as well as live TV, on-demand, and unlimited recording, all for only $16 a month. No contract needed. There's never been a better deal. Start your free trial instantly with just a phone number. No credit card needed. Visit go.philo.com/crime. That's go.philo.com/crime. Or text the word crime to 74456.
I'm Rebecca Lavoie, and this is Crime Writers On, the podcast about other podcasts and also about true crime, pop culture, journalism. And this week, we'll look at the cross petition by Adnan Syed's legal team. We'll go behind the bars with Odell in the Dark, and we'll stretch our muscles and hopefully not poop ourselves when we review the ESPN 30 for 30 podcast series, Bikram. Joining me to do all of that and a whole lot more is my true crime co-author, real-life husband, and partner in crime, Kevin Flynn. Hello, Kevin.
Namaste, Rebecca.
I will never hear that word the same way again. Also with us is journalist, true crime author, licensed private investigator, former defense investigator, and triple certified cat lady, Laura Bricker. Hello, Laura.
Hello, my cat prowess is growing. Meow.
And finally, the novelist behind the City Trilogy and the Crime Writers On Patreon exclusive book club Westworld robot host, Toby Ball. Hello, Toby.
I was going to say namaste, bitches, but I guess Kevin stole it. So, hey, how's it going?
It's going pretty well, as long as you don't ask me to massage your calves or any of that bullshit. It's going great otherwise.
Massage.
Come up to my hotel room.
Comb my hair.
Well, I just want
Check
to...
out my Speedo.
Can't even. We'll get there.
All right.
We'll get there. I just want to let you guys know in our audience that, once again, we are organized enough to know what we are going to be talking about next week. We're going to be talking about the hit series from BBC America that is gaining steam and making a lot of waves. It's called Killing Eve. And if you haven't watched it yet, I recommend checking it out. And we are going to be talking about it next week.
It's super fun.
Oh,
super fucking awesome.
Now, Toby, you've started watching Killing Eve. You think it's super fun? Is that a little preview of your thoughts? I'm just so happy to hear you say something's fun.
Yeah, well, I'm only 2 episodes in, so it could get super dark. So far, it's super fun.
Spoiler alert, it's
fun.
called Killing Eve.
I know. It's
not taking Eve out to dinner.
Right.
Although it does happen.
They did have dinner.
Trying unsuccessfully to kill Eve.
That's right. Well, let's save it for the next week's podcast, guys. Let's save it. So the other thing I wanted to mention is that we are so organized right now that we know what we're going to be talking about the week after next week.
Mm-hmm.
Because huge news came out, at least it was news to me. I guess other people probably knew, but it was news to me. On June 8th, Netflix is going to be releasing the original series, The Staircase, the old episodes and then the newer episodes, plus the 3 brand new episodes that were at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Tribeca, yeah.
And that everyone has been talking about. This is, of course, the Michael Peterson case. And we are going to be talking about that update to The Staircase. And perhaps, because we have 2 weeks and because we know about it in advance, perhaps we'll be revisiting some of the original stuff from The Staircase as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about in 2 weeks. And of course, we always leave slots on our schedule open for other emergency true crime updates and news as they might come up. But I'm really, really excited that The Staircase, which we've talked about 150 times in this podcast, is finally going to be available on Netflix and therefore available just to more people.
And we get to talk about the owl theory with Toby.
The owl.
Yes. But our friend Amelia McDonald Perry did tweet that having seen the new episodes and some other stuff, that she is now on Team Owl.
She's
just
like
saying.
Definitely.
Oh, for God's sake.
Toby, you can never be too careful when you go outside. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. There were bears in our neighborhood last week, guys. Real life bears.
I saw that. You were not getting out of the car, were you, Rebecca?
I may have made the mistake of following my neighbor back when he said, let's just walk up. Just to fill our listeners in, there was a mother bear and 2 bear cubs in a tree that was about 100 yards from our house. But they were in the tree. They were like 20 feet up. The mother was about 20 feet up, and then the cubs were about 20 feet above her. And we were looking at them from the car, and they're so freaking cute. I'm sorry. You know how like polar bears get all dingy and white? Like black bears are just cute, and they stay cute. They're the cutest animals in the world. So they were up there. They're very cute. We drove back home. I told our neighbor that there were bears in the tree around the corner, and he's like, let's walk up there and look. And I was like, that's stupid. And then I proceeded to follow him around the corner. And then, of course, as soon as we turned the corner, I saw the mother bear was not in the tree. She was in the yard. And in the video, which to be real, I did not take, he took. He is filming the mother bear, and you can hear me running away in the background.
Yeah.
Literally running away.
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick plug. This week, I was invited to come on the Slate XX Gab Fest. That is the podcast hosted by Hannah Rosen, and it features a bunch of women talking about the media and different aspects of the media. And they invited me on to have a short conversation for their episode this week about the culture around My Favorite Murder, which I know a lot of our listeners listen to. And judging by our Crime Writers On exclusive Facebook group, 50-50, our listeners either love that podcast or really fucking hate that podcast. And we just had a conversation about the culture around it that I think you guys might enjoy listening to. So check out this week's Slate XX Gab Fest and listen to me weigh in. And I hope you murderinos out there that I did you proud, even though I don't actually listen to that podcast. All right. Now, Kevin, kicking off the show this week, can you please read this for me?
True Crime Podcast Update.
Well, as expected and as we predicted, this week, Adnan Syed's legal team has filed its response to the state of Maryland's request from Maryland's highest court to hear a new appeal in that case. Kevin, you have read through Legal Siri, a.k.a. Colin Miller's analysis of that cross petition. What is Adnan Syed's lawyer, Justin Brown, arguing?
Okay, well, this is the cross petition, so it's sort of a conditional response. The state is the one that is bringing the appeal, asking the high court to take a look again at the previous rulings from the lower courts. What the cross petition does is it responds not only to the state's appeal, saying why it shouldn't, why the court should not grant a writ of cert to allow this to go forward. But it also has this conditional part where it basically says, but if you do grant a writ of cert, this is an argument that we would like to bring up.
Right.
So it's kind of like a never mind if it doesn't happen. So in part, they have to argue about why shouldn't the state be granted cert to go forward. And one of the arguments that at least Colin Miller pointed out was that when the Supreme Court of a state or of the country gets involved, it's usually because there's a point of law that is of benefit to the public at large and not necessarily just a benefit to the litigants. And this usually comes about through, an improper or incorrect application of the law or clarification needed for an existing law. So what Justin Brown is arguing is that what the state is saying regarding the alibi witness, Asia McClain, and whether or not Cristina Gutierrez did call her as an alibi witness, whether or not that was a thing or not, they're just trying to relitigate the fact of the case.
Right.
And they're not really, arguing anything more about what is in evidence.
Now, to remind me, if I am remembering this right, what the state said in one of the PCR hearings around this was that if Cristina Gutierrez had brought Asia McClain in to dispute their timeline, then they would have just presented a different timeline, right?
Yeah, that was one of the things that they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they could.
I kind of remembered that. I remember thinking that was bananas.
Yeah, so they're basically saying, okay, you there isn't a larger public interest in taking this case up, but they are going back to, arguing the idea about the cell tower evidence. That is part of the cross petition. They won that on an earlier appeal, and they'd say, okay, if we are going to, get into this again, we would like you to reconsider the lower court's decision on whether or not, if the jury had heard the state expert recant his endorsement of the cell tower evidence, whether that would have made a difference.
Right.
So that's where we are.
And another reminder, the state's expert in the original trial has basically recanted his endorsement of the cell tower evidence based on that cell phone fax cover sheet. Now, Kevin, lawyers point to precedents from other cases to make their points. Colin points out that other lawyers are pointing to Adnan's successful appeals as precedents for their cases. Right?
Yeah. In fact, the Michael Skakel case in Connecticut?
Yes, the Kennedy cousin.
The Kennedy cousin, right? He just had his conviction overturned.
Yes.
In their arguments, they cited the Adnan Syed case.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
as reason. And now that the Syed case is going up to a higher court, Justin Brown is citing the precedent in the Skakel case.
Because it's a foundation being built.
Right, yeah, they're basically going up a step.
What they're basically saying is the courts decided this, and it was affirmed by this other court making a judgment based on it, so therefore it's right.
Yes.
What was the Skakel case point from the Syed case that they used? Do you know?
I think it had to do with alibi witnesses.
Huh. That's crazy.
I have a fun Skakel fact.
What's the fun Skakel fact, Laura?
Well, my little middle of the nowhere town where I grew up, where we had like a gas station and nothing else, there was a reform school for rich kids. And Michael Skakel went there.
Oh.
Really?
Rich kid reform school.
Rich kid reform school with horses. And Michael Skakel went there when he was shipped away after the great Martha Moxley encounter.
The Michael Skakel case is like a perfect storm of like American true crime. It involves the Kennedys. It involves, the teen murder, the mystery. There is actually a mystery there. It involves, what's his face? The guy from the... Mark Furman from the O.J. Simpson.
I think he wrote one of the books, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. How do you know being involved in that?
I don't know,
but it was like really weird, that sort of confluence of Mark Furman and the Michael Skakel case.
The whole thing was weird to me.
The whole thing is very, very strange. So what's the likelihood, did legal theory say, that the Court of Special Appeals will grant cert, that word we can't pronounce?
Certiorari?
Sure.
Okay. Well, you remember Colin saying on our podcast, and he said it again here, that even though very few cases are granted cert by the Supreme Court in Maryland, there's a better than 50-50 chance that they will take up this appeal because of the lower court, the 3 judges, there was 1 dissent. If it had been 3-0, it was very unlikely that they would grant the appeal and would go straight to be remanded to a new trial. So,
right.
So if they do say we're going to take it up, then that delays the possibility of a new trial. But if they say hands off, no, we're going to let the lower court decision stand, then it's immediately...
Asia's in, but the cell phone is out.
Right.
For the turning over of the conviction.
Right, yes.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's go ahead and book a new trial.
But it doesn't mean that the cell phone stuff can't come in a new trial if the state tries to present it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Yeah,
it basically sets everything back to zero.
Yes. Yeah, and the whole thing about the cell tower evidence was just that it wasn't argued that this exonerates Adnan. It's that Cristina Gutierrez didn't use this information, and therefore he didn't get his Sixth Amendment right for, effective assistance of counsel was violated.
Right.
So it had more to do with the legal standard for what kind of lawyer and he could expect versus whether or not this is true or not. If they go to a new trial, they can hash out for a jury what the jury's going to believe all that means.
You're like our legal Siri this week, Kevin.
Not really.
You're basically just repeating what you read on Colin's blog.
I'm legal Siri Wikipedia.
Yeah. Well, you sound super prepared.
You do. Thank you for being so prepared.
Sure.
All right. Well, moving on. Kevin, can you read this for me?
The Richter scale.
Yes, guys, we have a new brand. Our week-by-week recap and review of the excellent true crime podcast In the Dark Season 2 has been renamed the Richter Scale because our listeners have enjoyed hearing Laura's various degrees of fury and anger and reaction to the developments in the podcast. And one of our listeners did, in fact, suggest that we rebrand the segment. So we are doing it. And Kevin, I want you to read it again so I can add some extra echo.
All right, ready? The Richter scale.
So here we go. Let's take a moment to review the latest episode of APM Reports podcast In the Dark Season 2. This week, Madeline Barron's team takes us into Odell Holman, a.k.a. Cookie's, prison cell, where he basically admits to fabricating the testimony, which is the only evidence keeping Curtis Flowers on death row. Basically, Madeline Barron kicked out the third leg of the stool supporting this conviction.
By this point, I'd already looked at every other major piece of evidence in the case against Curtis Flowers. The route, the gun, the other two snitches. None of it had held up to scrutiny. And now, all that was left was this one story, this one confession. And then, from his cell in Parchman Prison, on a spotty cell phone connection, from underneath his tent, Odell Holman told Samara that story was a lie.
For him telling me he killed some people, hell no, he never told me that. That was a lie. I don't know nothing about this shit. It was all make-believe. Everything was all make-believe on my part.
One of the things we hear in the podcast right up front is that Odell, as you guessed, Laura Bricker, has a cell phone in prison, even though he committed 3 murders.
I don't think he has a cell phone right now. I think that's gone.
I think it's still there.
I think as soon as this episode dropped, it disappeared pretty damn fast.
Laura, what did you... Laura's like, no, I've been texting him. He still has the cell phone.
Yeah. He's
Laura,
friended me on Facebook, Kevin.
what did you think of this? That he not only has a cell phone, but he's so comfortable using it that he basically makes a little pillow for it on his bed to use to help make it more quiet. But that doesn't stop him from also doing drug deals on the side as he's talking to reporters on his contraband cell phone. Laura, thoughts?
Yeah. So this week, I decided to vary my walking route while listening. I went deep into the woods where no one could hear my screams or where someone could kill me and nobody would know. And I found myself, it was a good thing because I was like, oh my, you've got to freaking be kidding me. So, I mean, I wasn't super surprised that he had a cell phone because I had kind of been like, oh, he probably has a cell phone. Doug Evans probably gave him a cell phone. But I guess what I was surprised at was just like the blatant like disregard for the rules and just sort of the level of comfort that he had with his cell phone. Like, after he got over the you're going to pay me for my story nonsense, he was like completely comfortable. Like, hold on. Yo, so you owe me money. Hold on. I'm in my fort. I'm in my tent fort. I'm like, are you even kidding me right now?
Yeah.
So I was in like this, as you would imagine, a full state of rage. But this week's episode, it was really quite masterful because it took you from like one emotion to the other in such a complete way. Mm-hmm. You know, I went from complete rage to just such complete compassion and sympathy for the family of Curtis Flowers that by the end of the episode, I was just like, I just want to go hug Curtis's dad. This is the most tragic and sad thing that I've heard so far. The contrast between what his family was doing, what he had been doing before he went to prison, and this guy, Cookie, with his cell phone. I mean, I need to actually, I think this week, people, I'm going to go befriend Cookie on Facebook to just see, because I don't think they're even going to take his cell phone away. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like, they don't fucking care.
Yeah.
This guy is like untouchable, and it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. End of story.
Toby, one of the things I thought was really interesting was Cookie's characterization of his relationship with Doug Evans, the prosecutor in the case. How, like, you know, we're good. We've always been good. Like, I get arrested for stuff. He clears it up for me, and I do something for him. I do something for him. He does something for me. We know that this is not a good guy. We know he murdered 3 people. This is not a case of like a quote habitual offender who's just been arrested so many times and then, like, you know, brought into the system and is like would have been fine. Like, this is actually a bad guy. What were you thinking when you listened to this phone call and listened to his characterization of Doug Evans? Did you find him credible in his own knocking out of his own testimony in this case?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is that their relationship, it's so based on sort of a quid pro quo where they both benefit from their relationship with each other, so that I think in probably both their minds it's sort of unshakable because there's no benefit to either one of them to not having the relationship. I don't think they're like buddies, and if Cookie gets out of jail they're going to like hang out and stuff.
No, definitely not.
But as far as each person wants something and the other one is able to give it to them, and it seems like a fairly even exchange to both of them. So why wouldn't he feel comfortable, you know, dealing drugs in the jail and being pretty out front about it and having a cell phone and stuff? It's because Evans isn't going to screw me because he relies on me,
right?
And vice versa.
Now, Kevin, we've had some experience with not to this extent, not to this degree of like bad guy involved, but we have had some experience where we've reached out to people that we wanted to talk to for a story we were reporting, and they asked to be paid.
Yeah.
Can you just like remind our audience who maybe don't understand like how journalism works, like why that is just a non-starter for a credible journalist?
Well, I don't remember how journalism works, but
has it been a while for you, Kevin?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, no. That's just, you know, a basic code of ethics thing. You're not going to pay you for your story as much as you'd really like to, you know.
Like if you give $500, you'll learn everything.
Like, oh yeah, oh you know I would, but you just don't. It's actually a very common practice in other places. Checkbook journalism in the UK is not uncommon.
It's prevalent.
There are ways that the networks.
Television networks
kind of get around that. I mean, you know, if they want to get around that, like I'm not saying Dateline, but a Dateline type show. You know, there might be someone who's a relative says, I want to get paid for my story, and we're not going to pay you for your story.
National Enquirer.
That's right.
Well, we're going to talk journalism, so we're not talking National Enquirer.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to bring. Didn't mean to divert us from our topic.
Catch and kill. So they might say, hey, you know, okay, well, we won't pay you, Dad, but you have these photographs, and we'll license the use of the photos from you. So we'll pay you for the photos.
Right.
So it's like that. But no, you just don't pay because then it calls into question the reliability.
That's right.
Of what the person says.
It's funny because this is so ingrained in my journalistic DNA now for as long as I've been working in journalism that like I was on a podcasting, there's a podcast support group page that I belong to, which is like literally people starting a podcast who have questions that they ask more experienced podcasters like, how does this work? How does this work? And one of the questions that came up this week is like, do you pay guests to be on your show? And there's like all these different answers. And I was just like, no, like you don't pay guests to be on your show. I pay guest hosts because like our show makes revenue. So like if somebody comes in and like, you know, Kevin, if you broke your leg, or that's probably not a good example, you could still podcast with a broken leg. But if you had strep throat and I had to bring in a substitute for you, like I would pay that person because that's a job.
Yeah.
But like
if you're a panelist or a guest
if you're
panelist,
being interviewed,
that you know that you can. That's just sort of a talent labor kind of thing.
If you're being interviewed,
no, right
for information,
exactly. Yeah.
You cannot be paid for that. I mean, that's literally like.
No, you could, but
you could, but it's
you
not
don't.
right.
You don't do that.
It's not right, and it's not something that any credible journalist would do. And clearly, they could have gotten this information pretty cheap if they'd been willing to do it.
Yeah. I would not. It sounds like that they kind of played hard to get, where they said no and left it for days and days and days. I more or less try to like, okay, I'm going to keep sweet talking you.
Right.
I can't give you money.
They just
but
left
I'm going to
it.
let you. Yeah, I'm just going to, you know. So they were
but
good.
He kept coming to them. What do you think of that?
Well, as soon as he started coming to them, he's on the hook.
Yeah, do you remember when
they
we were
got
writing our book and we tracked that guy down in Italy and asked him to talk to us?
On Facebook.
Yes, it was also on Facebook.
How else are you going to get a hold of him?
What's his first name? I remember
You know
him.
who exactly?
Sandro
Yes.
Studo.
Yes, you know exactly who we're
Yes, I
talking
remember
about.
him.
Yes.
And he said,
What's in it for me?
What's in it for me? Money-wise, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, then there was another guy, the guy in Massachusetts who was a wannabe gangster guy,
Yes.
but he was just
Sebastian.
Yeah. Laura, what do you think it says about Odell's personality that, he made this demand for money, they said no, and basically ignored him, and then he kept coming back to them?
I think he's used to getting his way at this point.
Yep.
And he sort of, I don't feel like he lives by the normal rules that would govern somebody that's in prison, and he kind of knows that. I think he's used to using his power.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of surprised that he finally did talk to them. But I also think that he likes to talk and likes to be important. So I think that's kind of what played into that eventual, like, okay, fine, I'll talk.
Yeah.
Because then once he got talking, it sounds like he wanted, what was he? I mean, he was talking about the dragon book. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is this? Was that the woman who wrote Anne McCafferty or something?
I don't
She wrote
know.
all those books. Yeah.
Probably.
I was like, what? He's like, the dragons before. And I was like, this guy is just in another orbit right now.
He wants to talk about himself, which is what they
You should get on
And the
get on our
dragons.
Patreon book club.
He has a phone.
Toby, friend him on Facebook and get him on for August. I want to chat with him.
All right. You could look at some feminist true crime stuff. You'd
Exactly.
probably be into that.
Now, Toby, all joking aside, he does talk with an incredible amount of casualness about having testified against this guy who's now on death row. He very casually admits that he lied so he could get something. And then he also sort of casually talks about not really caring that he sent somebody to die, by doing this. What do you think about that?
I think it's not very good.
Yeah.
that he does that. No, I mean, I think in some ways it's of a piece with that, he goes back to the reporters, to see what kind of deal he can cut. I mean, it seems like he's always looking for whatever angle he can get. And if part of it is I screwed this guy in order to be less screwed myself, then that's fine. I don't know if it's like technically sociopathic, but it is. In any given situation, it seems as though he's looking at how is this going to work out for me?
Yeah.
So I'll make something up. I'll, keep reducing my price for talking because getting a little bit is better than getting nothing. And I really don't have any leverage in this situation. Yeah, I think that's basically the long and short of it. And I don't think he has any compunction about doing that. I mean, he killed 3 people for, not that there's any good reason to kill people, but it was just like for the hell of it.
He almost killed 4.
Kid.
Yeah. And he only, there by the grace of God, did not kill that little kid.
So it's just not part of his calculus.
Now, Kevin, this episode was structured in such a way that, they sort of finished this part of the story very quickly. I think that a lesser podcast would have drawn out the lead up to his confession that he lied and made that the whole episode. But they told it in the amount of time they had to tell it. And then they take this turn halfway through the episode because I think what they're doing here is, as you mentioned last week, they were going to look at Curtis Flowers and we'll put him in jail, and then they're going to look at the guy who put him there. It felt to me like with the whole second section where they visit the choir rehearsal and we hear the and you know what, I was like, that part dragged a little bit for me until they did the thing where they played the alternating tape of Curtis's dad singing, Curtis singing, and I was like, God damn it. In the dark, people. I'm in the car driving home from getting like my tire replaced, and I was fine. And I'm like, oh, this part of the podcast is like a little slower. They've really changed the pace. And then I felt the freaking water rolling down my cheeks like a loser, like a manipulated podcast loser. It was really moving. I'm sorry, it just was. But do you think this is the pin they're putting in the end of this part of the story? Because you said that next week is going to be about the trials. Are we going to flip to the examination of Doug Evans next?
I would. Do you know how many episodes this is going to be?
I don't know. I think this was 6, right? This was number 6.
No, I mean the whole series.
I don't know how many long it's going to be now.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that we have learned. I think just about all we're going to get to learn about Curtis Flowers,
because we can't talk to him.
Because we can't talk to him. I mean, there's always more that they keep digging up. I would like it to start focusing, to make that pivot.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to. This was sort of a weird middle act.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole
denouement.
I mean, the whole thing with Cookie at the beginning of this episode very well could have been the end of the previous episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it was good that they sort of cut that off and started something new, and that it wasn't the entire episode. And again, like you said, the part with the family was, was good, and it was touching in places there, and it did go on, I think, a little long for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to now get to the second half of the thing that you've promised. You've promised we're going to look at this prosecutor, and I want to know what you got to say.
I have a second question for you.
Yeah.
You listened to the Daily this morning.
Yeah.
Today is Wednesday. So it is the Daily for today, Wednesday, May 30th, which is about a guy on death row in California.
Yep.
Who looks like he was framed by police, and he's sitting on death row, and he could be killed. So Michael Barbaro on The Daily, one of our favorite podcasts, was able to interview this guy from death row.
Yeah, I think it was Kevin Cooper.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fact that Mississippi won't let Madeline Barron talk to Curtis Flowers? They just won't let her talk to him.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the point is kind of moot because he's not going to talk to her, and his lawyers say don't talk to her.
Why deny access to an inmate, to a journalist?
I mean, there's some legitimate reasons, that are understandable that the Department of Corrections can take if the inmate has lost privileges or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. He's on death row. That might mean that there's less access to him. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, is it just him as far as people on death row in like similar situations? Is it just him? So no, you can't have him, but you could have the guy in the next cell.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, otherwise, it starts sniffing. It starts to smell a little bit like, you're going to look into this? Well, we're not going to facilitate that.
Yeah. So, Toby, you're still in Within the Dark, season 2, right? You're going to listen again next week?
Yeah, of course.
Laura Bricker, where are you right now on the Brichter scale Within the Dark, season 2? Do you want to give yourself a number on that?
Well, so I was on like an 11.5 when I heard the cell phone thing. But then I was pretty deflated and depressed after I heard his father and their gospel singing.
Yep.
I'm going to say I'm still at about a 9.75.
Oh, that's a pretty high Brichter scale rating.
Out of 10.
So 11.5 to begin with?
When I heard the cell phone thing, I was like, out in the woods. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm going to this is so depressing. So I came down a little bit.
Tap.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think Laura knows how systems work.
The Brichter scale
the scale goes to
it's
11.
my own scale. I've just... It's native to me.
The Brichter scale is a thing unto itself, people. It just is. Mm-hmm. Kevin, final thoughts about In the Dark season 2?
Well, I definitely want to see next week when Laura has another angry walking fit.
Okay.
And if you keep listening to this podcast and go on those anger walks, Laura, you're going to need a new pair of shoes, which is fortunate because we all just got shoes from Rothy's.
We did.
Oh, yeah.
We did.
Well, you got 2 pairs of
Ladies.
shoes. Yeah. Finally, a shoe that combines style and comfort. Rothy's everyday flat for life on the go. It's stylish, classic, comfortable, and it comes in 3 styles: the flat, the point, and the loafer. Laura, tell me, which pair of Rothy's shoes did you get?
I got the flat, the regular one with the rounded toe, and they were super comfortable right off the bat. And I got so many compliments, and then I also like to tell everybody, they're made out of water bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
recycled
they're
plastic
super cool
water
shoes.
bottles. Yeah.
And you can wash them,
Machine
which is always
washable.
Yes. I mean, not to give too much information, but my feet stink. So I don't wear shoes like this, but I can wash these ones.
That's right. I actually think the Rothy's shoes, I was saying when I was in the call with the Rothy's people, Kevin, that we should get your daughter a pair before she goes to college because they will last her for 4 years. She'd have this cute, stylish flat to wear with jeans, to wear with dresses, to wear with whatever. It's like a classic flat shoe, the classic point shoe, like the little moccasin that they've come out with is so cute. The patterns are great. The colors are great. They're totally washable. They're extremely comfortable. My feet. My feet are super effed up, and I can wear these shoes, and I love them. It feels like you're wearing a sock. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Right now, Rothy's has an amazing deal for our listeners using the code CRIME. You'll get free shipping, no minimum purchase. That's right. Get free shipping plus free returns and exchanges on your Rothy's shoe. But trust me, you won't want to return them.
You won't.
Just go to Rothy's, ROTHYS.com and enter code CRIME. Get your cute shoes for free shipping. Those shoes are a no-brainer. They are comfortable, stylish, and sustainable. Plus,
and machine washable.
Plus, you get free shipping. Get yourself a pair today. Rothy's.com, promo code CRIME. Get it while the deal lasts.
Listen, I'm sorry that we keep harping on the machine washable thing, but like, some shoes are technically machine washable, like sneakers or whatever. Yeah. It never works out. These shoes, I've already washed mine. They're actually machine washable. They come out the same as they did when you put them in. It's incredible.
So does this mean you'll be doing the laundry more often?
Nope. All right, Kevin, what else you got?
Moving on.
Well, if we're talking about comfort, there is no more comfortable underwear in the world than Tommy John.
Nope.
Oh, wait, Rebecca is reaching into her waistband and she's pulling it out.
Would you like to touch
She's pulling a Laura Bricker right now.
I'm
That's
touching
what she's
the
doing
waistband.
Right now.
That's an amazing pair of women's underwear. But you know what?
What?
We're not talking about that today.
Oh, no. What are we talking about?
Men's underwear. Because Tommy John, yes. High five, Tobe. Boom. Okay.
It's guys' night.
It's guys' night. Remember, Tommy John originally started as male underwear. Now they have a great female line. But hey, why not think of Dad for Father's Day with a limited edition gift set from Tommy John?
Why not?
Tommy John uses proprietary fabrics that are so soft and light, Dad will
incredible.
swear he is going commando. And all Tommy John underwear is backed by the best pair he'll ever wear, or it's free guarantee. So you've got nothing to lose. So this Father's Day, give the dad in your life a gift that is ahead of its time. Evolved underwear from Tommy John.
Give them to your husband, who's a dad.
Yeah,
and then buy some for yourself while you're on there, ladies, because it is freaking awesome.
You know, it has the no wedgie guarantee.
I love it.
And I have to, you think wedgie.
It's legit.
You think like 7th grade, bully attack. But, when it's like, no, actually, this is a thing that does happen to you naturally.
100%.
And it's just,
especially when it starts to get warm out.
It's uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah, guess
it's
what?
It's an annoyance.
Guess what? This is the reason why I've replaced all my underwear with Tommy John underwear. That no wedgie thing, it's legit. It's legit.
Yeah.
It's great underwear. It's the best. Legit. I'm going to get you some for Father's Day.
Okay.
For Father's Day.
We're spending a lot of time talking about like spontaneous self wedgies.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, you can get me that by shopping this limited edition Father's Day gift set at TommyJohn.com/crime right now and get 20% off your first order. TommyJohn.com/crime for 20% off. TommyJohn.com/crime.
It's really good underwear. Moving on. ESPN's sports anthology podcast, 30 for 30, has changed up its format for its 3rd season. Instead of bringing a variety of sports-related features, it's focusing on one story. In the 5-part series, Bikram, host Julia Lowry Henderson, talks about the rise of hot yoga fitness guru Bikram Chaudhry.
The man who shaped up more celebrity bodies than any exercise instructor. He is Los Angeles' most prominent yoga master to the stars and 3 times served as national yoga champion of India. Would you welcome Bikram Chaudhry?
Half a billion people has been benefited directly, indirectly from Bikram yoga around the globe.
I mean, he's created a yoga that has healed and helped tens of thousands of people at minimum, and that has hurt and destroyed thousands of lives. And there's no arguing with either sides of those coins.
Henderson peels back the veneer of Bikram's self-created myth and gets into the many allegations of sexual misconduct and the effect of the controversy on the yoga empire that bears his name. So as usual, we are going to be discussing major plot points of the podcast we're reviewing this week. So if you want to just skip ahead to our spoiler-free thumbs up or thumbs down review of Bikram by 30 for 30 from ESPN, go ahead and look at the show notes right now where I've put a timestamp for where that review is, and you can just skip all this juicy stuff. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about this podcast is they did drop all 5 episodes at once, which we've talked about before on this show. It's a new trend of dropping seasons rather than doing the weekly serial style storytelling. Sometimes I think it's a really good idea. Sometimes I think it's a really terrible idea. I'm just going to go ahead and put in a plug for it being a good idea in this case because, as I said to you guys, it kind of has a little bit of a slow burn. The first 2 episodes give a lot of context about Bikram yoga, which I think really helps orient someone, say, like you, Kevin, who may not understand kind of like what this whole community and culture is about. So the slow burn of the first 2 episodes, do you think it was a good idea that all 5 were dropped at once?
Yeah, I do. I think that this is this is bingeable.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing. Yeah, I wonder if it came out week after week after week.
Would you have kept listening?
Whether I would have kept listening. I don't know. I think this is an interesting way to tell stories. This might be the better way of delivering a lot of these podcasts.
It might be. It might be. I'm not sure. Toby, so our narrator here, the reporter behind the story, Julia, she discloses early on in the series that she used to manage a Bikram studio in New York. So here we have a narrator who's actually like a first-person participant in the community she's reporting on. What do you think of that? Do you think that that works in this series?
Yeah, I think it does. You know, I think these things cut both ways in that she has sort of psychological insight and credibility about talking about sort of the like cult that is Bikram yoga. I mean, the people that they talk to certainly sound like they're cult members, right? I think, and it's weird in that I think there's a lot of people who do Bikram yoga who don't center their lives around it, I would assume, although we don't hear from any of those type of people. So there's that. And then on the other hand, to take that cult thing a little bit further, like the whole apostate attitude towards their former cult or religion or whatever is often quite harsh. So you have to keep that in mind too. Although I don't think necessarily in this case that I think as a reporter, she seemed to be both able to convey sort of the attraction of Bikram yoga and of Bikram Chaudhry himself as sort of his public persona. And at the same time, you know, the sense of betrayal she had as somebody who obviously really bought into it. And I think buying into Bikram yoga, at least until very recently, was kind of buying into Bikram Chaudhry. You get a sense of both the attraction and then the sense of betrayal afterwards.
There were so many things in this podcast that reminded me of so many other things we've talked about on the show. And you mentioned the cult tie-in. There were so many things about hearing the story about how he built this legend around himself and around this brand that reminds me so much of the cult of Scientology, which we talked about on the show, and so much of the cult we talked about, the Rajneeshis in Wild Wild Country, the sort of cult of personality around a central figure. But the Scientology thing for me was a little more resonant because there was this mission with Bikram yoga. It's, yes, a great fitness activity that makes people healthy and makes them fit, but the way they frame it as changing lives, we're going to change 7 billion lives. Reminded me a lot of that. But the other thing that it brought to mind for me, Laura, was some of the origin stories we heard in the Missing Richard Simmons podcast about this fitness guru starting a practice and starting like a community around fitness. And we hear the historical details about Bikram's first studio, the carpet, the mirrors, the heat, the Speedo. What did you think of that scene that we get around him and his like TV appearances and just like sort of his persona in those early days?
Well, I mean, I am a person who like smells and things like that. I get totally. So when I heard like there's carpet, there's BO, there's people pooping themselves and peeing and puking, I'm like, oh God, now I know why I never did this kind of yoga. I mean, I thought, like, I mean, I've done a lot of yoga. I've done different types of yoga. And I was like, oh, I should try that hot yoga. I'm pretty glad I didn't do it now, having heard this. But I hadn't really thought about that sort of comparison to the early days of Richard Simmons. But I definitely can see that because, you know, when you think back, like, remember they had like the same people and remember the guys who were like, we got in the front row in Richard's classes.
That's right.
And it was the same thing with this. I mean, it's like, is it fitness or is it cult? I mean, I can't lie. I go in the same spot every time when I go to my little bar class at the gym. And like someone today is like, oh, you're in your spot. And I'm like, well, it's like church. You have your pew and that's where you sit and you don't move. But it definitely, there was definitely that carryover between, you know, the early days and the excitement. And it was like everybody who was anybody was doing the Bikram yoga.
Right.
Whether or not half these people were really doing the Bikram yoga, I think kind of is up for debate. Raquel Welch, though, was doing the Bikram yoga because he sued her. Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like in the beginning, like you kind of get a sense of this like the sense of excitement that surrounded it. And
Right.
it was like the thing to do. And I look around now, and I'm like, okay, so what at my gym is going to become like the next big cult? I don't think there's any like cults going on in my
Right.
gym right now,
Right.
but I'm like, ooh, is the pound class going to be a cult now? The cult
what
of the pound class. Do you know what that is?
No. Is it chasing loose dogs around?
No, you have these like drumstick things, and you like beat them off the floor and beat them and tap them and beat them and pound. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
I think the beating off was what got Bikram in trouble.
Oh my God. Oh no.
If only he would have done that instead of
It's
assaulting
just
these women.
The massage. But I mean, I definitely, so I came in the beginning, I was like, yeah, this is like, I can sense the excitement when this first started. But then there's clearly from the outside, as you're listening to this, a moment where you're like, this is a cult.
Right.
This is clearly a cult. He is controlling these people. These people are brainwashed. This is wrong.
Kevin, thoughts? Cult or fitness craze? Or both?
Both.
Yeah.
And I think that later on in the series, when we start to get to descriptions of what happened and his victims are these people who are taking this
Teacher training
so that they can excel in their own studios back home, that it's not just the influence of a powerful religious or cult type figure, it's also corporate. So I think that it also adds the dynamic that the CEO is hitting on you, and you're worried also about your economic
your livelihood.
Your livelihood. You're going
Right.
to be disadvantaged in your career if you don't do this. And that is another element kind of layered on top of all this sort of cult of personality behind him as well.
Right.
So, it was just another reason why the victims felt like they couldn't say no to him, because they had a lot personally riding on their relationship with him and their ability to succeed in this organization.
That's one of the reasons why I really liked the slow burn of the first 2 episodes, because I do think that context not only sets up the why people were so into the practice and how it got so popular, it also sets up that like the people who did this, they first of all, like what are all the hallmarks of a cult? Like Toby, like when they try to extract money from you, when they explicitly like try to separate you from your friends and family, which like they actually say like you can't have contact with your friends and family while you're in this training.
You've got to say his exact words, including like
the Korean
like
hamburger or whatever it was.
sayings and stuff. Yeah, I mean it's bizarre.
It's bizarre. The dialogue. I mean,
the Rolls Royce.
There are so many things about
the train of thought
that are so clearly the same patterns. And we talked about this when we talked about Wild Wild Country 2 and the Scientology episode. A lot of the same techniques that cults use to indoctrinate people to break them down and then get them. It's the same techniques that the military uses when they want recruits to just fall in line and do what they want them to do. It's like that depersonalization, that pushing you to the limits. All of that is there. But I loved that you pointed to the thing that I kept thinking about, which is that this is like they're all thinking like this is going to be my job. I'm going to make money doing this. This is going to be my business. It's going to be my livelihood. And that he has control over their ability to sustain themselves in their businesses. There is a sexual harassment, traditional workplace sexual harassment story here that is
But they don't just think that, it's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's not a false thought on their part.
That's right.
It's like,
if
he
they
withdraws
him,
Bikram.
That's right.
From their thing, then it's not Bikram yoga, and that's what's hot.
Yeah.
Which is nuts because it wasn't even Bikram yoga to start with. It was,
spoiler alert,
yoga royalty of India, grandma's yoga to start with. But I want to take a poll here. Has anyone here, like Rebecca, did you ever go through a Bikram yoga phase?
I know. I did a one class once.
Did you vomit?
No. It's the classes aren't like that. Honestly, like the one thing that they skip in this podcast, and the reason why Bikram, there's actually a second reason why Bikram is so popular that they don't talk about in this podcast. So it's these 26 movements over an hour and a half. You can be a complete beginner and do this. So when you go to these Bikram classes, usually at the front, there are some like really fit, hot people like who look amazing and like do everything perfectly. And then in the back, there's a bunch of dowdy moms like me who are like 30 pounds overweight who are just like trying out the yoga. And for me, it just honestly came down to like, I hate being hot so much. Like I'm not one of the people who loves hot weather. Like I fucking hate being hot. So, and the smell was not good. But but that's one of the reasons it's so popular is because you can go in this class, and because it's the same movement over and over again, like you can be a beginner and do it, and then you can advance and keep doing it. But it's always the same, so you know what it's going to be. It's never a mystery.
But I have a question.
Yep.
Did you wear a Speedo?
No.
I need to know.
I was the New York State yoga champ when I was
Were
11,
you?
12, 13, and 14.
Yes.
And I did have to wear a Speedo.
What are the yoga championships? How do you win? What do you do?
You know what?
You hold the position
There's
longer?
actually, in the town next to me, there's a girl who won like the national yoga championship. So it is a legit thing. And she was like a ballet dancer, and then she also did yoga, and she won.
Is this something that's judged?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's got to be like gymnastics. I mean, if you go on the internet, it's like these women making their bodies into like a backwards O with like Bikram standing on their abdomen, telling a joke. I think there's
You've seen fitness competitions,
Yeah,
right? Where
yeah.
they do the posing
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
It's like that, but for yoga.
Oh, okay, all right. No, it just sounded like maybe like it was like a dance fight.
Yeah.
Like
No,
they,
not
like,
dance
It just
fight.
doesn't seem like there should be a
five yogis
competition
get on the
for it.
floor and
Yeah.
someone takes out a bed of nails and
The
I don't know.
competition does seem counter to the practice of like helping people, does it
It's a
not?
tea drinking competition or something.
All right.
Well, let's
Moving on.
Let's talk about the actual. I mean, obviously the podcast. We are introduced to like every character who's going to be in the podcast in the first episode, but then we don't hear from some of them again, and then she sort of brings them out again, and it turns out that Bikram isn't just a shady businessman who likes to get massages. Turns out he also has lots of allegations of sexual assault and harassment and all of the things that could possibly go wrong with having a powerful man at the center of this. And now we are obviously in the middle of this big moment in our culture, this Me Too movement where, Bill Cosby was finally convicted of rape after decades of allegations against him. Matt Lauer was fired from the Today Show. These stories are prevalent in our culture right now. I don't think anyone was surprised at this turn, but Kevin, what did you think of the stories that these women told? And I'm not going to ask if you found them credible. I think that we all agree they were.
Yeah, no, I thought
But
they
what
were
do you think
powerful.
of the narrative? Yeah,
I thought they were powerful, and I was moved by the other. I forget their names and their exact positions, but the other women who heard their stories.
Yeah.
The ones that
who were running the Facebook group.
the ones that felt like they could have done something different for them, and when you're hearing it, it's kind of like, no, that wasn't your fault. This thing isn't on you. But they sort of just naturally feel this. They're so empathic that you start to feel it too. I thought it was really moving, and I hope it's empowering for those people that were caught up in this, that they know that there is a community that does support them. Also, there was the one guy who said, this community is divided in basically into three groups. There's, the ones that, are horrified by the sexual allegations and don't have anything to do with Bikram. There are those that, viciously, fiercely defend Bikram and won't believe anything.
True believers, yeah.
The true believers. And then there's people like me who are trying to reconcile this,
right.
that the practice of Bikram yoga has been so beneficial and it's part of our livelihoods and it's really great for the people who are there. But the guy named Bikram, the guy who brought it to us, is very flawed. Do we ignore those things, or do we find a way to reconcile the two?
Right, and it's not dissimilar from the separating the artist from the art conversations we're hearing in these, Me Too moments, the Harvey Weinstein stuff, the Bill Cosby stuff,
the Roseanne Barr stuff,
Woody Allen.
Yep.
Now, Toby, this is different because it's not a piece of media that you can just not watch or ignore, or just I will tell you, the really difficult one to escape is Kevin Spacey, because he is in most of my favorite movies, and most of my kids' favorite movies. But I can't even look at him. I feel completely different when I look at him. But we're talking about a practice that you do with your body. Toby, how do you think, this conversation happened in the podcast? What did you think of that part of the podcast when they were sort of talking about that reconciliation?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, it's a little bit less tough in my opinion, just because it's not actually something he came up with. He just basically found something and marketed it to people who didn't know it before.
Right.
So in a way, you could just say, well, look, this guy was a con man to begin with. So the fact that he's also a sexual predator is kind of in keeping with this idea of extreme narcissism and, stealing other people's stuff and calling it your own. Just telling these unbelievable lies about like treating Janet Reno as gout or something.
Yeah.
And Richard Nixon and all this kind of random stuff. I think you can, just based on what we heard on the podcast, is it seems that you can kind of divorce, you can even change it from the Bikram, if somebody really wanted to, you could just do the research, find out where this thing actually came from in India. If it wasn't his originally, I don't think he can sue you for copyright violations. So I think you can go ahead with the practice.
It is copyrighted, though.
Yeah.
But can you copyright somebody else's intellectual property?
If somebody has to challenge it. The person who actually created it has to actually challenge it, and that person
has he done that since
dead.
Since it came out? I might have missed that. I might have
he copyrighted it during the lawsuit phase of the podcast, and so he made it so that if you wanted to do this at all, you had to use his name, and then that was and he had like a shitty business practice, like he wasn't making franchise money like he could have been.
Right. Yeah.
He was just controlling the brand.
But like if I went to like India and found some like pop tune I thought was really great and came back and just recorded it and then copyrighted it. Couldn't people be like,
it needs to be challenged.
Well, there was the guy who
actually that was somebody else's song that you are pretending is yours.
Yeah. Well, there was the guy who came up with the example. He said, well, what if you did a weightlifting workout where you did
the Schwarzenegger.
did these many flies and this many bench presses, and it's like, okay, that's the Schwarzenegger workout, and he copyrights that, and you could do that.
Right.
And so,
But the whole thing is, if you vary from his routine, you don't have to call it Bikram, and you can do whatever you want.
Well, now, do you think there's the macro issue here, which is the business side and the
if you just call hot
cultural
yoga, but don't talk about cheeseburgers.
Right. If he had never called it Bikram,
right,
would it be an easier call for people to sort of move on from the founder of this or one of the leaders of this is a criminal? And it's just you're just able to have the benefit of the whole yoga experience.
My opinion is that I am not an insider. I'm not part of this community. I'm not like a yogi person. I'm just a consumer, of fitness stuff occasionally.
Yeah. Who are you fooling?
Yes. And I call it hot yoga because that's how it was introduced to me.
Yep.
And I think the only people who are buying this bullshit that nobody will come if it's not called Bikram are Bikram people. Because we heard that guy say when he changed the name, like he got all of his old customers back. Yeah. Laura, you said there were some Bikram studios with the name still in them near you, right?
Yeah, I listened to this and I felt kind of, when I heard that people were changing the name of their studios and disassociating from Bikram, I was like, that's good. But I'm like, I feel like I've seen some studios around me. So I looked it up and there's like 3 studios within 20 minutes of me. There's one in Newburyport, there's one in Portsmouth, there's one in Durham. And I'm
there's
like,
one downtown Durham. Yep.
I'm like, seriously? Are you guys freaking serious? Like I guess I have a hard time with the people that are keeping the name because, I've had friends that have practiced this style of yoga and they were like, oh yeah, that guy's a bad guy. Yeah, we stopped doing that yoga. And I'm like, so I guess I don't understand how these people are still keeping the name and justifying it.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, it's fine. No, it's not. It's bullshit.
Now, Laura, I know that you were hoping to get a little more digging into the backstory of his deceit about his India life, right?
Yeah, I was hoping to learn because, we heard a little bit about that when they interviewed the woman who was like, oh, this woman is from like the yoga royalty family in India. And she's like,
which, by the way, how hot must those people be? Like to be yoga royalty? They must be like the best looking people.
I would like to be yoga royalty. I would like to look like that. But, she's like, oh no, I recognize these poses. I did these with my grandmother growing up. This is not his yoga. This is like yoga that's been around. And so it was my impression, in talking to some of my friends that have done this kind of yoga, oh yeah, they outed him on that. And he never even made up that was yoga that he like basically pilfered from these people that already had done it. But I didn't really get a sense that had ever come to anything from this podcast. So I wanted to know a little bit more about, was anything ever done about the fact that he, basically took this style of yoga and this series of postures that had already been done in India, brought it over here, claimed it was his own, became the big creepy cult leader in his creepy black Speedos, and like nothing ever happened as a result of that. And now where is he? Like Brazil teaching yoga?
Mexico.
But I wanted to know more about did the yoga community in India ever retaliate against him for this or try to do something about this?
Well,
they wrote a strongly worded letter to him.
Well, certainly an interesting podcast. Definitely a little bit outside of our true crime wheelhouse, but not 100% outside of it. There is
it
a crime.
It doesn't feel like a true crime podcast, right?
But there is a crime at the center of it here.
Yeah, it's not a put down at all, but style-wise, it's a really interesting story that has a crime element to it, but nonetheless, I think it's very well told.
Well, why don't we go ahead and review it then, Kevin?
Right.
Since you just tipped your hand, Laura Bricker, I'd love for you to give your thumbs up or thumbs down review of 30 for 30 from ESPN's their series Bikram, this 5-part series. Thumbs up or thumbs down, Laura Bricker, and why?
I'm going to go thumbs up. I didn't know a lot about the background of Bikram. The first 2 episodes definitely clued me in. They had really good access to a lot of people that had been involved in the Bikram yoga community. They had good tape of Bikram himself, a lot of good insight. A very interesting story from start to finish, but I will say the Richter scale was a little high at the end of this because this guy was allowed to just move along and continue his tactics in another country, which I found absolutely bullshit. But it's a good podcast. It's very interesting.
Toby Ball, what about you? Thumbs up or thumbs down for Bikram from 30 for 30 by ESPN?
Yeah, I'd actually done a fair amount of reading about this beforehand, so a lot of the stuff in the story wasn't really new to me. But I thought it was very well done. I thought the host narrator was really good. So yeah, I give it a thumbs up. I mean, I don't feel, again, it's interesting. It's well done. I don't think it really breaks any ground as far as the kind of podcasts that we've been listening are, but it's like super competent. And, I enjoyed listening to it, definitely. So thumbs up.
I'm going to go on a limb and give it a huge thumbs up. I loved this series. I binged the thing. I listened to all 5 episodes in a row. I thought it was a story about sexual assault, which isn't something we've talked about a lot in this podcast, and it was done very, very, very well. I think that the context that it brings to the story, not knowing a lot about the backstory of Bikram and the cult around Bikram and all that stuff, was really, really important because, frankly, and no offense to all the yoga people listening to this show, it would be so fucking easy to hate these yoga people without the deeper context. It would be so easy to be like, just not be sympathetic to anything they had to say when you know how devoted to this practice they are and just know how hot they have to be and whatever. And the context is really important to make you understand how they became these devoted yoga people. And I was with them in this storytelling. I even understood why they stayed in that room when people were literally shitting on their yoga mats during that training.
We're supposed to be spoiler-free for this part.
Well, yes.
I was just thinking, though, there's somehow I have to mention.
I think that's in one of the previews for the podcast, though, as a little soundbite. So I loved it. I loved this 5-part series. I thought it was beautifully done. I think it is a must-listen of 2018. So far, it's one of the strongest things we've listened to this year. Huge thumbs up for me. What about you, Kevin?
Hey, I'm with you there. I'm giving this a thumbs up. I think it was very well done. Even just the first episode, if you stopped there, and it was still a really interesting story about this guy's self-made myth. Mm-hmm. And then it just goes
and
into
the celebrities,
the celebrities and whatnot, and without giving away any of the stuff, it slowly goes to this really dark place, and sort of all the important consequences of it. I'm definitely thumbs up because, hey, why not try all those different poses, and maybe you'll have a really great summer. Because you would look really great.
You'd be hot yoga person.
Hot yoga person.
Yep.
Well, another great thing for the summer, though,
what
is to get the FabFitFun summer box.
The summer box.
Yeah.
What's in the box?
I'll tell you what's in the box. FabFitFun is the seasonal subscription box for women to discover new products for a life well lived. The box is delivered right to your door 4 times a year for just $49.99. And Rebecca, when I was checking out the box, sometimes you get these things and then you get these little sample sizes.
They're not
of
little
stuff.
samples, they're full sizes.
No, full size things, fashion, beauty, home, fitness, wellness products. No sample sizes of anything.
It's a big box of awesome.
Tell me about the last box that you had.
Oh my God, there was a full-size candle in it, some full-size beauty products, a gorgeous, very soft cashmere-ish throw to wear around my shoulders in the freezing cold studio was in it. There were some slipper socks, some jewelry, some really great lotions and creams, full size. It was wonderful, the last box I received.
The summer box is valued at $320.
Whoa.
And it includes the Foreo Luna Fofo
What is that?
I probably did not say that right
I
at
like
all.
the way you said it. Say it again.
It
sounds fancy.
Foreo Luna Fofo.
I'm not even going to look at it. I'm just going to go with that.
It retails at $89. So it means that you pay, less than the cost of the box for just one product there.
Right.
You're making it up just on that one. So sign up for FabFitFun today to get your summer box. The FabFitFun summer box is in limited supply, and these boxes always sell out. So go to fabfitfun.com to sign up and start getting the box for a life well lived. Use promo code CRIME to get $10 off your first box. That's over $200 of products for only $39.99. Go to fabfitfun.com. Use code CRIME for $10 off your first FabFitFun box.
What else you got, Kevin?
Well, if I want a box delivered to my house,
yes,
I want it filled with meat for the grill. And that's why I want a box of Omaha steaks delivered hand-trimmed, flash-frozen, and vacuum-sealed meats sent directly to my door in an Omaha Steaks cooler. It's great because when you get your delivery of Omaha Steaks, you've got so many different things to choose from. Just before you go out to work, maybe just take one out to frost steak, some chicken, something great for the grill. They have so much stuff right now. Omaha Steaks is offering our listeners a limited time Father's Day package for only $49.99. That's 78% off. So you go to omahasteaks.com.
That's a big discount.
It is.
78%.
Yeah. Search crime, and then you can get this Omaha Steaks Father's Day package, which includes, you ready?
Yes.
2 filet mignon, 2 sirloin, 4 chicken fried steaks, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 all-beef Omaha steak burgers, 4 jumbo franks, 12 ounces of all-beef meatballs, 1 pound of steakhouse fries, 4 caramel apple tartlets, 1 Omaha steak seasoning packet, plus get 4 more Omaha steak burgers free with purchase.
Wow, it's a lot of meat.
That is, you got to invite a lot of friends.
It's a lot of meat in that box.
Again, this is a limited time package for only $49.99 when you go to omahasteaks.com. Just type crime in the search bar and add the Father's Day package to your cart. Don't wait. This offer ends soon.
And now it's time for favorite part of the podcast, a little something I like to call the crime of the week. Although he lived life on the edge, Jim Mad Dog Sellers died peacefully of a heart condition this week. A Springfield, Missouri Reserve police officer, Mad Dog was best known around town as a storm chaser. His brother said that he had a natural gift for checking the radar and knowing exactly where a twister was heading next. Before he died, he made his wishes known about what to do with his remains. He says he wants his ashes launched into a tornado. While it seemed a fitting tribute, Mad Dog had obviously never seen The Big Lebowski. We don't know if or when his wishes will be carried out, but we are pretty sure we know what happens when you throw 5 pounds of pulverized bone into 150 miles an hour circular blowing winds. So, panel, here's my question for you. Where would you like your ashes spread when you go to that big podcast studio in the sky? Laura Bricker, I'm going to start with you.
I would say spread them around downtown Exeter so that when great injustices happen, my little ashes can fire some people up to yell and swear and fight the man.
Toby Ball, where would you like your ashes spread when you head to that big podcast studio in the sky?
I really don't fucking care at all.
Because you'll be dead.
It makes no difference to me. Maybe in my cat's litter box or something. I don't know.
So cynical. Kevin Flynn, you know where I would like my ashes spread?
Where?
I would like them put in a Miracle Whip jar and buried in center field at Fenway Park, because I know that is the only fucking way you will ever visit me after I'm dead. Kevin, what about you? Where would you like your ashes spread?
I want to spread all over the house just to annoy you.
Nice.
That way
Vacuum it up.
Yeah, it'll be like I'm there still alive, making a mess of the house.
Exactly. Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right, Laura Bricker, before we end the show, do we have a cat of the week this week?
Yes, and I'm going to say I have a runner-up because I had a lot of great submissions this week. So Brooklyn's cat, Dusty, due to her Dust Bunny appearance, Dust Bunny, Brooklyn's cat, just got its spring shave. Which was cool because she sent me lots of pictures of that.
Oh,
but
I saw.
I'm sorry.
She campaigned hard.
Yeah, she campaigned hard, but I'm sorry. Tina Hamilton wins this week. 11 months ago, Jimmy Dunn disappeared in the middle of the night. His owners searched, posted rewards, investigated the local anti-cat couple's house for evidence, and came up empty-handed. Life moved on. The family adopted 2 stray siblings, and everyone remembered Jimmy as a great cat. And then one night, 11 months later, a little voice was heard at the cat door. Jimmy had returned. Healthy, a little skittish, not at all happy that he had new siblings, and very much alive. They are so happy to have this giant beast home and very curious exactly where he was.
Real question, though. Is there a Stephen King pet cemetery across the road from where they live?
Sometimes dead is better.
All right, Laura Bricker, if people want to continue to campaign for you to not make their lame-ass cats runner-up, but to win cat or dog or fish or hamster of the week, how can they find you on Twitter?
At Laura Bricker.
And Toby Ball, if people want to reach out to you and give you some better suggestions than I don't fucking care for where to spread your ashes, how can they find you online?
At Toby Ball NH.
And Kevin Flynn, people want to write to you and tell you what a wonderful wife I am for burying myself in a jar of Miracle Whip at Fenway Park when I hate Miracle Whip and baseball. How can they find you on Twitter?
They can't.
No, for real, how can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Kevin P. Flake.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Reb Lavoie. You can also tweet to our show at Crime Writers On and join the fine folks on the official Crime Writers On Facebook discussion group, or leave a comment on our regular old Facebook page. You can support us at patreon.com and hear Toby's exclusive Balls Deep Book Club podcast. For other exclusive ad-free content, including our marriage podcast, Married with Podcast, you can subscribe at stitcherpremium.com/crime.
Is that a cat?
I hear a purr.
It's Rocky Flintstone.
Nice. Go to our website to sign up for our newsletter. Our theme song was performed by Rocksteady Freddy and the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble. This show was recorded in the Yoga Loft above the Bodega in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi studio, formerly known as Studio C, the closet in our basement where we don't do yoga, but it is really hot and we do wear very little clothing. On behalf of all the crime writers, thanks so much for listening. We will catch you later.
Are we all set?
Anyway. Yeah, I'm so about this cat. You don't even know. He's such a cool cat.
Oh, we
carry
know.
on.
Oh, we know. We fucking get it, Laura Bricker. This cat scores a 7.9 on the Brichter scale.
This cat has everything. The job, curiosity.
Pause.
He's had like 800 retweets since I tweeted a picture
Feline
of him.
HIV.
Chlamydia.
No, only Stampy had chlamydia.
A tattoo of a smaller cat on his arm.
A cat tramp stamp.
The fact that you said arm is just cracking me up.
So when he rolls up his sleeve, he can make it dance.
All right, you guys ready?
We're ready.
Carry on, people.
Okay.
Partners in Crime Media.
Kind makes delicious, healthy snacks using whole ingredients. Now you can try 20 Kind snacks with their new snack pack. Enjoy 50% off and free shipping on your first snack pack when you subscribe to it through Snack Club, Kind's monthly snack subscription service. Go to kindsnacks.com/crime for more details. That's kindsnacks.com/crime to learn more and subscribe to the snack pack.
Luxury is meant to be livable. Discover the new leather collection at Ashley with premium quality leather sofas, recliners, and more, all built to last. No matter how many spills, scuffs, or pet-related mishaps come its way, the leather collection at Ashley is made with the durability you need for the whole family. Shop the new leather collection at Ashley and find chairs starting at $499.99 and sofas at $599.99. Ashley, for the love of home.